Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Jared Benederson, co-owner of Infinity Dental and Mono Implant Academy. And thank you for joining us. Look, I've been practicing for 15 years. I've done a lot of these, and I know that your time is important. I'm not going to waste a minute of it. It's going to be short, concise, and to the point. So let's talk about why we're here. So in my journey in implantology, I discovered a product that was FDA approved in June of 2020 that has completely revolutionized every aspect about my practice. The amount of income I'm bringing in, the excitement I have about dentistry again. It's a full arch, well, everything from a single implant to a full arch solution that everyone from someone straight out of school to a master of all-on-4 could integrate into their office very quickly, very easily. It's the easiest full arch implant system on the market. It's the most cost-effective full arch implant system on the market. It is the all-on-one system. So let's get into it. Let's get you guys excited about it, show you what has made me lose sleep every single night at this point since I've been placing these implants. And so let's get into it, guys. I'm going to do a quick screen share here. And all right. So again, this is what I call the revolutionary large implant system, the true all-on-4 killer in my mind. Knowing what I know now, I would never recommend all-on-4 to anyone I know or love after seeing the system that we have mastered, that we are now teaching. We're so passionate about it. So let's get into it again. So let's talk about the stars of the show, though. So these are the one-piece implant systems that make it all happen, okay? I know they look very different than probably what you are used to seeing. Again, these are FDA approved in June of 2020, and they less than 1%, we predict less than 1% of dentists in the United States have even seen these, even have far less than that have experienced them. And these are what make the full arch solution so incredible, and I'll explain very quickly here. Let's talk about the design of these one-piece implants, okay? First of all, they're a very sharp-pointed tip. They're self-threading, self-tapping, and they're an ultra-aggressive design. These are monolithic, you guys. They are both bendable and non-bendable variations. I'll explain that very quickly what that is. But what makes them so dynamic and easy to use in full mouth restoration scenarios is that there's 114 sizes that are provided that we can help provide, everywhere from 2.4 millimeters narrow to 5.5 millimeters wide. And in length, we're talking 6 millimeters short to 18 millimeters long. So there's a size for almost every location, whether there's plenty of bone or whether it's highly atrophied ridges. This is what's so incredible about these implants is that there is a size for every scenario, and you can fit the prosthesis to the implant. Far less scenarios of needing to graft. Grafting somewhat becomes a thing of the past, and we'll explain. But we got to compare. We got to compare to conventional implants because that's what the manufacturers for the last 30, 40 years have brought to the table in the United States. That is what the dental schools have brought to the table and trained us all on. I was trained on conventional two-piece implants, obviously 13 years ago. But let's take a cross-section. This is where a picture speaks 1,000 words and where we can really see how complicated two-piece implants really are when you start talking about the abutment screws and the abutments. No matter how well they are machined together, there are issues when the system is this complex. Now, again, a mono one-piece implant is monolithic titanium, same titanium as every other two-piece system, but through and through with no machining of all these internal parts that have to work together and the issues that arise with that. So let's compare them, okay? When we're talking about conventional two-piece implants, one of the big issues is periimplantitis, okay? No matter how well they're machined, you will always have a connection gap and you will have a biofilm to some degree develop. Now, there's platform steps to help negate that. But the one thing with mono implant, one-piece implants, virtually no periimplantitis. There's no gap. There's no biofilm development opportunity where the abutment and the implant come together at the crestal ridge area. So periimplantitis, I'm not saying it never happens, but it is significantly less. And we have polished necks, and we found that bone and gum tissue like polished necks in that crestal ridge zone. That is one of the biggest game changers of why conventional two-piece implants are, it's hard to compete with mono one-piece. Uh, in terms of strength, conventional two-piece, they just, because they're hollowed out to accept abutments and abutment screws, they have actually overall reduced strength because they're hollowed out center. Mono one-piece are monolithic titanium the whole way through and through. And so even the smaller sizes are actually stronger. Okay. Now let's talk about abutment screws that can loosen. So we all know the studies, if you're in placing implants, that everywhere from I've seen as low as 28% over 10 years to as high as 45% over 10 years, where abutment screws can come loose. Okay. Whether you're doing a screw retained implant or a screw retained with a cemented crown over it. Okay. That's a factor that we run into. Okay. With mono one piece implants, though, we're bringing it all back to basic crown and bridge. This is the beauty of the system. If you can do crown and bridge, you can do mono implants. Okay. Now we are cementing though, okay? And there are techniques of how we cement it to reduce any cement coming out. That has been studied and well documented though, and techniques have been developed, but we're not ever worrying about abutment screws coming loose under the crown because we're doing basic crown and bridge cementation. So with conventional two-piece implants, the osteotomies are much larger and much more invasive. Again, the implants are larger, okay? And we know that in this area, size does not matter, okay? With mono one-piece implants, they're flapless micro osteotomies. They're actually treated more like a mini implant. Anybody that knows about placing mini implants knows that these are sometimes they're just pinpricks into the crestal plate. So they are much less aggressive. Conventional two-piece implants are much more expensive. Okay, so again, of the systems that I placed, I was paying $360 per implant for Camlog, $380 for BioHorizons, up to $420 for Straumann. Okay, and that's just the implant. Then you have the healing cap or the healing abutment. Okay, then you have the closed or open tray impression copings or scan bodies. Then you have the custom abutment. Okay, that all adds up aggressively. With mono one piece implants, though, they're extremely affordable. Our implants are $75 per implant. That's what they are, period. $75 an implant. And that includes the abutment. That includes essentially what is the healing abutment and the impression coping, because again, these are putting crown preps out of the gums that are basically made out of titanium. That's how you have to reframe how you think about this. So I can do a full arch per arch, and this includes the final zirconia prosthesis, and this is with the lab doing everything. This is not with my in-house mills. I can do an entire arch for just over $2,000. That's all the implants. That's the temporary roundhouse healing. That's the guides. That's the final zirconia bridge, again, for just over $2,000. And that's having the lab do everything to make it easy on us. It is a completely different overhead, which makes the entire system so much more profitable. So I had mentioned earlier, this is one of the things that is the game changer that no other system can do. And that's the fact that these implants are bendable. Again, we have bendable and non-bendable variations. But the bendable variations, you can bend in any direction up to 45 degrees. What this allows you to do is fit the implant to the prosthetics instead of vice versa. So you can have the ideal wax up, you can have the ideal shell, okay? And you can bend and prep the abutments right into the perfect position. It's a game changer. This is a principle. What we're recreating is what Carl Misch did, okay? Carl Misch, one of the godfathers of implantology, okay? That nobody can argue with, okay? Wrote many thick textbooks on this. One of his techniques was recreating what mono implants does, but with angled abutments and cement, composite over the abutments and prepping them, but fitting many implants all on X to the ideal position and then cementing roundhouses on it. Okay. We have, by this new system, the ability to bend it 45 degrees in any direction. I'm going to show you, in this case, there are two of my patients, okay, that were immediate into the socket. I want to show you when you look at prosthetically, and if you look at this image, now here we go. Boom, look at the axis on two of these implants. You can see where they originally placed, but I was able to bend the abutment heads right in to be in line with the other ones and in the line of access. Okay. Again, you would have to be selecting and having on stock many different variations of custom abutments, custom angled, whether they're 15 degree or 30 degree, and then having them locked into the right dimension, the buccolingual dimension, to recreate this. And you still have the gap in the biofilm of where the abutment meets the implant. So let's get into it. Let's show today we're going to really quickly talk about an immediate case and a healed ridge case, because the goal and what we've been mastering in the all-in-one process with Mono Implant Academy, what we teach is full arch flapless, zero bone reduction FP1 zirconia prostheses on 8 to 12 implants per arch. So let's talk about a healed ridge case. Again, FP1 prostheses, FP1 being teeth only, FP2 with a little pink, and FP3 being what we're traditionally seeing with All-on-X and All-on-4, where you're flapping back and mowing down bone, is what FP3 is. Our goal, and I think what is the holy grail in full arch implantology, is the flapless, zero bone reduction FP1 prosthesis. Now, this patient was edentulous for a year. She went to University of Michigan and had all of her teeth out. She could not do dentures. Okay, she had too big of a gag reflex. Beautiful, beautiful person. Drove 2 hours to find me to do the mono implant FP1 all in one. In her case, it was more of an FP2 solution. And in this, I did both the upper and lower arch in 3 hours and 20 minutes, start to finish, getting all the implants in, as you can see. And this is showing her upper arch, what this looks like. On the right I wanted to show you before we bent and did any prepping, but this is 38 minutes into the procedure. So on a healed ridge cage, and this is her lower arch, okay? This is her lower arch. What I want you to see is this was healed ridge. And now these abutments, this is what it looks like when that's what they looked like before they were prepped and bent. This is when we did a little bit of bending and a little bit of prepping. But you can see this is immediately afterwards. There's no blood. There's no flaps. There was no bone reduction. Okay. We're recreating titanium crown preps into whatever arrangement that we want, and doing conventional crown and bridge cementation and development. If you have gotten out of dental school and do basic C&B, you can get into this level of dentistry immediately. And then this is obviously Barbara immediately post-op on the right in her 3D printed temp that she's going to wear for 4 months. Now let's get into an immediate terminal dentition case. This is a gentleman that was in his late 30s that came to us and was looking for a full arch solution, had researched All-on-4, was not interested in having his gums all flapped back and bone mowed down. He did his research, found that we do it a different way. And again, this is a final product. This was one of my first cases actually learning from in the very, very beginning. Some of these are not absolutely ideally placed. Some of the angles, what you're going to see, these look crazy on the x-rays, okay, because no implant system looks like this. But again, he is a immediate case, true FP1. If you see the prostheses, okay, when he smiles, okay, just beautiful zirconia, game changing. Okay, this is what it looks like when I'm doing the extractions. I'm not flapping back. I'm trying to preserve all the interdental bone. Okay, the interdental bone, if we keep that, we keep the papillas. We can develop a true FP1. We're putting the implants right into the sockets, okay? We're going generally palatally to find bone with a long and narrow implant, and then we're bending the abutment to meet the prosthetic, or we're going directly into the cribriform plates, okay? We're sizing these implants. Again, these have sharp, aggressive tines on the threads that we are screwing into the cribriform plates, into that crestal bone, locking them in for life, okay? If you wait until it's all healed, if you go into the cancellous bone where it's soft, you'll lose the cribriform plate, that crestal bone, okay? But we are putting, our goal, okay, is as many implants as possible. We are overbuilding the platform where if I can fit in 8, I'm going to do 8. If I can do 12, we're going to do 12, okay? The goal in this, again, is to overbuild the platform where if you have all on four, okay, and one fails, the entire arch fails. It's catastrophic. You're taking off the prosthesis, you're doing another one, we're building them in a new zerk. If I've got 12 mono implants and one fails, the entire system doesn't fail. It's over engineered, it's overbuilt. I have multiples of what all in four does for stress distribution, for titanium to bone surface area contact. If one fails, I can remove that surgically, take it out the buccal, take out the lingual, flap it, bone graft it, fill it. The entire system does not fail. Cannot do that in all in four. So let's talk about the surgery day prosthetic armament. What do we do? What does this look like? It is so less complicated than some of the all in four systems or all in X systems that we're used to seeing. This is it. This is actually the max that you need outside the stack of implants. Okay. So on the left here, we have a clear stent. We have the surgical guide, and this is a case where I did a surgical guide. I very rarely do surgical guides. So what you're going to love about our system is that you don't need surgical guides. Often you're just going to throw them away. Okay. Surgical guides have their own issues that we all know. And you have 3D printed temps that are essentially biotemps that reline the day of surgery. So let's go through the steps, okay? So the first step in doing a full arch all-on-one system on monos is an ideal wax up, okay? Now, if the patient if they're already fully edentulous, you're gonna go through the equivalent of making a denture. You're gonna make them 2/3 of a denture. So you're gonna start by taking impressions. You're gonna do a wax rims where you're going to get their VDO, their occlusal plane, their midline, their smile line. You're going through the steps of essentially making a denture, which we can all do. It's so easy. Now, if the patient has terminal dentition, though, okay, if they have some teeth mixed in there, though, one of the cool things that you can do is we know we have to make the ideal wax up, but you can make a Siltec and take crown bridge temp composite. And just like you're doing a veneer wax up trowel, you can fill the Siltec with it, slap it on, see if they like it, get some retention on some of the teeth or fractions of teeth that are there, and say, hey, do we like this before we even start? Because we do the same thing if they're edentulous, okay? We get their biotemps, their first temps in, and we try it in. We make sure before surgery day, we like what it looks like on that edentulous ridge. But it's a really nice way to slow it down and show them and let them see what they're going to go home that day in surgery. Okay. But once we have the perfect wax up, we're going to have the lab make a 3D printed biotemp style shell of the wax up, whether it's FP1, FP2, or FP3, that we're going to reline to fit to the bit of the implant abutments the day of surgery. So this is what they look like up on the top. And you're going to see this is how they look when we reline it. This is immediately after relining what the inside looks like to snap on, basically. And we can temp cement those onto the mono abutments for a 4-month period. Now, what if they already have a grateful denture? Now, this is interesting with our system of how it works. So you're actually already one step ahead in the process because we can do what's essentially, I don't know if you heard about this, the denture in a box technique. We can take their great denture, okay, and you take a denture box and you take a 2-component Siltec putty, you fill the base of it, you slap it in, you let it set. You keep it in there, you take Vaseline and you rub it all over the occlusal surface so it doesn't stick. You take a whole nother round of Siltec putty and you put some into the internal palate area, and then you fill the other side of the box, you slap them together and you let it all set. And you can pull it out, you send the patient home with a denture, you send that denture in a box to your lab. They can recreate their entire denture, both the outer surface where the teeth are and the inner surface of the impression, the intaglio of what their ridge is. And it gives them an enormous starting point of this entire process. Let's talk about surgical guides, okay? With surgical guides, we're talking only pilot drills. When we teach our seminars of how to do full mouth, okay, and we have a 2-day seminar of how we teach you every single detail aspect of how we do this. We teach how to place these implants. One of the things that we teach is that these are very aggressive, self-tapping, self-thread, very sharp tip implants, okay? When I place these implants, if sometimes at most I'm just pinpricking the crestal ridge. I've had scenarios where it isn't a healed crestal ridge yet with mature crestal bone that I literally just thread the implant right through the tissue into the site. That's how amazing these implants are. So when you're doing surgical guides, we're only pin pricking. We're only doing pilot holes at most, okay? You're not taking all of your drill bits that we're used to with larger conventional and potentially heating the bone. We know that when you heat the bone more than 4 degrees Celsius, it starts dying, okay? So we're not doing that, okay? Guides can do that. I don't care, no matter how good the guided implant system is, whether it's funneling, irrigating water, cooled waters, through the drill bit, you always have an issue of possibly overheating the bone. So we don't want to do that. So we want to give it a place to show us visually, okay, and to engage the tip of our pilot drill or the tip of our implant, okay? So it's very quick, very easy process. We're pin pricking, we're going in halfway with a 1.5 or a 2.0 pilot drill, and we're giving a place for the tip of our implants to engage. I have a burr on the left here that at most other times I'll create a purchase point bowl right into that crestal ridge to, again, to give our implant a place to find it before we start screwing it into the bone. And when I say screwing it in the bone, okay, this is what I mean. So one of my favorite drivers, now with our implant system, you can, we have a driver head that you can put on a motor if you're comfortable doing that way. I don't like doing it because I feel like you lose the feel of your bone, okay? I've never really liked it because I like to feel, it's 4D implantology. It's feeling the density of the bone, okay? I've gotten very good at the feel. Anyone that's placed implants of it knows what I'm talking about, that you develop this seventh sense about density of bone and how it feels. You can also use torque, hand torque wrench drivers, but my favorite is the variations of, well, essentially it looks like a big ass screwdriver, excuse my French, where you are doing a driver into the ridge. So here's the technique of how I can place 10 to 12 implants max 45 minutes, 25 to 35 minutes max. So you're going to use a 1.2 or a 1.5 lance drill going at most half to 3/4 length, okay? If you're using more than a 3.3 millimeter wide implant, we do need to flare it a little bit, and we do need to relieve, most importantly, the cortical plate to get past it. I explain this very much in detail in our seminars, okay? How we teach you hold your hand showing you this. We then use this special hand driver to insert it 90% of the way. And it's crazy, you guys. It literally feels like you're just screwing a screw from Home Depot into wood, the way this feels. But it develops so much feedback. That's what I love about it. The feedback you get on the bone density is incredible. But you're going to you're going to put it in 90% of the way. Then you're going to use the torque wrench, the last 10%, to determine your torque level and record it and know right where you are, okay? And it's not until that we bend or prep these implants until they're all inserted. And I'll explain. So the clear stents is the next step. So once we have put all the implants in place, okay, once it looks like this, next step is this, okay, we're going to use our clear stent, which is essentially a suck down of our ideal wax up. And we're going to seat the clear stent over, and we're going to visually check each abutment to determine if it's in the proper position. We're determining angle and abutment height, which is, for all intents and purposes, going back to a basic crown and bridge, the center position. So the first thing we're going to do is make any bends, okay? First is always bends into the ideal position, and we're using this clear stent, which gives us a visual window to see, which is generally if they're out too far buckle, okay? The next thing we're going to look at is adjusting any vertical height, okay? So if we have an abutment that's too high, we're going to prep it down, okay? You're going to get very comfortable prepping titanium, okay? If you haven't already, titanium prepping is very easy. I'll show you the burrs and how to do it. But second is prepping any of them and changing any vertical height. And the third step in using this clear stents is prepping the buccolingual or axial walls if necessary. This is where it gets fun because you're making these abutments at times look like titanium crown preps, okay? Especially in the lower anterior and the anterior and maxillary mandibular areas. We're essentially prepping and polishing the titanium to look like crown preps, okay? Each abutment is, what we want. We want them relatively centered in the stent and to have enough thickness in the buccolingual and occlusal dimension of the zirconia, because we are creating full arch zirconia bridges on titanium crown preps, going back to basic crown and bridge principles, okay? This is what it looks like in the mouth, okay? So this is a case on the lower doing immediate. and had taken all the teeth out, put the implants immediate in, you seat the stent. You start getting a visual of, very similar to how we do basic crown and bridge of, full mouth cases of FMRs. See what your preps look like against your abutments and start adjusting the abutments to fit the stent. Okay. Next step is, again, retrofitting the 3D printed temp to the implants. Okay, so once the implants are in, once they're bent, prepped, adjusted into the ideal clear stent wax up, this 3D biotemp is a replica of a shell of that ideal wax up that is already pre-bored out for you, but you make sure you have a passive fit of this. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take whether it's integrity, whether it's any of your basic crown and bridge temporary composites. You're going to fill the trough. You're going to lubricate the abutment heads with Vaseline. You're going to seat it, go up, down, up, down, up, down for 30 seconds to a minute or 2 minutes if you have a long set. You're going to pull it off and polish it out, and the 3D printed temp will literally click on the implants. It's incredible, okay? And we want to pass the cement though, so then you're going to temp cement it. You're going to do really no more than a third to half of temp cement in each hole as we're cementing this on. And I know some docs overseas that don't even cement it at this point because they click in, they kind of snap in because they're custom fit to each one. And then you're going to adjust the collusion. Okay, now a very critical aspect of how you do this and how we've learned to do this to guarantee, especially early on, making sure that there's no temp cement, and we do this with our permanents too, to make sure there's no permanent cement that ever goes down, is putting a rubber dam. You take the smallest hole punch on a rubber dam and relatively fine each position. The amazing thing about these implants is you can fit a rubber dam under the neck so it kind of snaps and clicks on and it's sealed. Okay, it's like this comfort, the safety blanket you're putting under it. Okay, and you can temp cement it on. You will get no cement ever going below the abutments, whether it's in an immediate extraction case or that. And then I'm showing what this looks like, and I'm showing that I always put the puzzle pieces together to make sure they all fit. There's no increments of rubber dam ever caught, but we do put this as a safety net under a cementation process. Then you adjust the occlusion on the temp roundhouse. Okay, we're looking again for even bilateral occlusion. We want no distal cantilevers in the occlusion. Canine guidance, obviously, is our ideal. We're going back to basic crown and bridge principles, and then we're doing a softer food diet for 4 months. So this is what we're competing with, okay? This is all in four. Howard Farron, the co-founder of Dental Town, posted this a long time ago. This is what a resected ridge all in 4 case looks like. This is what, unfortunately, has been taught since 2009, 2010 globally as one of the standards now in full arch implant rehabilitations. And I question is, knowing what you know now, is this malpractice? Would you do this to yourself? Knowing that there's a solution that you can do 8 to 12 much less aggressive implants. You can fit them in places that more traditional implants can't fit. You don't have to do any flaps. You don't have to do any bone reductions. This is zero bone reduction protocol. Why would you do this? I wouldn't do it to myself. I wouldn't do it to my wife, my family, anyone I know. Okay, so I do think it's important to compare the two and talk about the all-on-4 system, the standard, I'd say, right, versus all-on-1, but our system, because let's put them side by side and you make the decision. So all-on-4, you're doing 4 implants per arch. I would say it's minimally engineered. In our case, we're doing 8 to 12 implants per arch. We over-engineer it. Okay, if one of theirs fails, it's catastrophic. If one of ours fails for any reason, it's not. But we get less failures because we have better distribution of forces, of occlusive forces, over much more titanium, far less angles we're dealing with of angled implants, better force distribution on vertical axes. Okay, it's just a better system, better design. It's been done globally around for 20 years. It's just new to the United States. They are flapping things back. Okay, we are flapless. Most importantly, in my mind, they are mowing bone down. Okay, they're mowing it down. We go on YouTube, see plenty of videos. It's horrific. It's barbaric, in my opinion. No offense to those that are doing it. I'm just showing you a new way, but ours is zero bone reduction. We want to get to the holy grail of FP1 in every case. We have the way to get to FP1. on most cases. The only time we're not doing FP1 is if they already have healed ridges or have major bone loss in certain areas already. Their overhead with All-in-4-1 is extremely expensive. Ours is the most affordable overhead. Again, our implants are $75 per implant. Okay. We're doing essentially roundhouse bridges that you can get from any lab, $1,100 for a full arch. Okay. Of zirconium. All-in-4 is complex to learn. Go ahead and do a $20,000, $25,000 week-long course to learn All-in-4. I can teach you All-in-1 in a day and a half for a tenth of that. So it's bringing back basic implantology to basic crown and bridge principles. It's doing what Carl Misch mastered. And again, one of the godfathers of implantology, what he had mastered in a better way, a better system that's more affordable. Again, and it's what makes me lose sleep at night because I'm so excited about dentistry. We have developed and have found a system that is, again, mastered overseas that now we can bring to the United States. That is just, there's nothing like it, you guys. I'm excited for all of you to go down the journey of what I've done, where, again, financially, what this will do for you. There's no other procedure in the world in dentistry that does this financially. You want to talk about patients having tears. You want to talk about your team members having tears. When you do surgery day and you are transforming someone's life. I'd say I very rarely had a full arch patient that doesn't break down at some point in tears through the process. You want to talk about what you can do for people in your community. We donate a case every year, and the market, what you can do with marketing with this to transform your practice. There's nothing like this in dentistry. I can promise you, if there's one promise I can give you, follow my lead in getting the full arch and all-in-one. It will do wonders for your practice. It doesn't matter if you're 28 years old, fresh out of school. It doesn't matter if you're 65 years old and you've been doing this for 35 years. Anyone can do this. It is the simplest, easiest system to learn on the market. And we do have a solution to teach you. Okay. So again, I'm one of the co-founders of Mono Implant Academy with my amazing partner, Dr. Elias Aishi. We've been practicing and doing this together for many, many, many years. We are doing a two-day hands-on seminar our next one is going to be October 6th of 2023 in our hometown. We live in Paradise. It's Spring Lake, Michigan, Grand Haven, Michigan. We invite you to come to Paradise. Go to monoimplantacademy.org. Click on our seminar, learn all about us. I'd love to have you all attend, and I will show you every single minute detail of these implants, how to place them. We're going to do hands-on. You'll learn full arch. Thank you guys for your time, and have a great summer, you guys. Thanks a lot.